What's up, y'all? Hang on, let me straighten out my camera. There we go. What's up, y'all? Welcome back to the channel. And today, we're going to be talking about a very important group of people that settled in Appalachia and that helped procure independence for the United States of America during the Revolutionary War. Today, we're talking about the Scottish. If you live in Appalachia, and you're from Appalachia originally, you're probably kin to these folks. The Scottish were a rough and tough group of people that lived in, well, originally Scotland. Scotland is also a melting pot of different cultures. You had cultures like the Irish coming into Scotland, the original descendants of people like the Picts in Scotland, which were the original Scottish, but you also had some Viking and Norse settlers that moved in that mixed well with the Scottish population. Now, the Scottish has a real rugged history. As you know, you've heard of William Wallace, Robert the Bruce, that first procured independence for Scotland. But there was many different battles and wars fought over Scotland. Now, when we talk about Scotland, originally we're talking about the land north of Hadrian's Wall that was built in the middle of the British Isles by Emperor Hadrian of Rome. The reason why this wall was built was because of the fact that the Romans really thought of the old Scots as renegades, as raiders, as plumb-out barbarians. Now, after the first Scottish Wars of Independence, the country of Scotland was eventually merged into the UK. Now, this happened with King James I of Scotland, England, and Northern Ireland. But it was officially ratified in 1707. And there's been several different Jacobite uprisings. But the most famous of which is one that happened in 1745, which is where my Scottish ancestry comes from. Now, the final battle of this war was the Battle of Culloden, which most of you may have heard from Outlander. The Battle of Culloden was fought between government forces and the Jacobite clans of the area, including Clan MacLachlan, which happened April 12th, 1746, in which my 7th great-grandfather, George MacLachlan, was captured and sent to America as an indentured servant. The MacLachlans were a proud group of people, much like other folks in Scotland. They claimed to have had ancestry to one of the High Kings of Ireland, and that their descendants moved to the Loch Fyne area, which is in Strathloughlin, Scotland, in order to get away from all the wars in Ireland. Now, MacLachlan comes from an old Irish word meaning MacLachlan, meaning son of the Norsemen. So, this really has testament to all the Norse and Scandinavian ancestry of the Scots and other groups in the British Isles area. And we'll talk more about the Scandinavians and how they had their influences on Appalachia later. But now we're talking about the Scottish. George came to America in 1746, basically as a slave. And he was put up at a plantation in Virginia, in which him and another Irishman escaped, who were both captured at Culloden. After which, George moved south to Rowan County, North Carolina, in which he linked up with a group called the Regulators, which you also may have heard from media like Outlander. The Regulators really took the fight to the British, and this was even before the Revolutionary War. I mean, they were already fighting the British before it was cool. So, freedom! Or whatever Mel Gibson said. Anyway, they did this because of the fact that they knew that if the British already screwed them over up in Scotland, that they were definitely going to screw the colonies over. And they knew this. They knew this as soon as the taxes started coming in. So they were taking the fight to the Brits pretty early. Now, when the Revolutionary War rolled around, you know that men like old George couldn't help themselves. So he created an outfit called, him and a bunch of other Scottish settlers, created an outfit called the Rowan County Rifles, which seen extensive combat during the Revolutionary War, including but not limiting to the Battle of Kings Mountain of 1780. Now, what made the Scottish such big influences on Appalachia? Well, first of all, they were one of the first groups here. The Scottish, the Irish, and the Germans were among one of the first groups, besides the Native Americans, to really extensively settle in these rugged mountains. A lot of the reasons why I think they settled in these mountains is because it reminded them a lot of home. The Appalachian Mountains are very, very, very similar to the Scottish Highlands, simply because of the fact they used to be connected before continental drift. So these Scottish settlers really, really felt like they were at home in these rugged mountains. They were tough and resilient, and they ended up establishing many communities in the Appalachian Mountains. George would also have a son, whose name was John McLaughlin, who ended up also fighting in the Continental Army in the Rowan County Rifles, and later with a Virginia unit during the Revolutionary War. Afterwards, John met a beautiful woman named Judith Leathers from the colony of South Carolina, and he moved her up into Virginia, present-day Tazewell County, and they had a couple kids. One of them being my 5th great-grandmother, Nancy McLaughlin Keene, who ended up marrying Lieutenant William Keene, and I will show you right here in a couple minutes the cemetery that they're buried in to this day. They're called pioneer settlers of Buchanan County. The Scottish were pioneers. They helped carve out the rugged mountains into the society that it is today. A society with an old soul, but is adaptable, who stays in their old ways, but also sometimes drifts into the new. Now, why were the Scottish so important to America? I'll tell you why. Not only did a lot of them fight in the Continental Army, but a lot of them were also revolutionaries here. They were revolutionaries, and they were some of the founding fathers that signed the founding documents of our nation. I want you to realize that if it wasn't for groups like the Scottish, the Irish, the Germans, and many, many others that came into Appalachia, there would not only just not be in Appalachia, but there would also not be in America. Groups like the Scottish really, really, really inspired the signers of documents such as the Declaration of Independence and also even the Constitution to pursue freedom in their own right. The Battle of Culloden, April 12th of 1746, is a testament to what groups like the Scottish, and even here in America, had to go through for their independence from one of the greatest empires in the world. Excuse me. There was many different settlers that moved into the area. Families like the McGavicks, the Frasers, the McLaughlins, even the Jacksons had very, very, very deep ties to Scotland. So the next time that you drink some Scotch whiskey, or you wear some plaid, or you see a man wearing a kilt, or you hear some bagpipes, remember that that is a little bit more than just Scottish things. That was also the song of freedom that was not only sung by the Scots, but later by the United States of America. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Zach. Please like and subscribe if you like content like this. We're going to be doing many, many different videos in the future on different historical groups that came into Appalachia. This is Mystical Appalachia. My name is Zach. Once again, reiterating that. and you all have a great night. Peace.
Picture it. It is April 12th of 1745, outside of Inverness at a place called Culloden. You are serving in the army of Bonnie Prince Charlie, and your clan is about to go up against one of the largest and well-equipped armies that the world has ever seen to this point. You stand there along with your brothers, waiting for the orders from your chief to charge steadfast into the British lines. Later he does, armed with mostly target shields, broadswords, and hand-to-hand weapons. You and all sorts of Jacobites from all across Scotland, Ireland, even some from France, charges the British lines. It's cold. The gunshots draw closer as you see the British Army is equipped with Brown Bess muskets. And Army is equipped with Brown Bess muskets and cannons and bayonets. You see men around you be slaughtered by the redcoats, men falling one by one. You yourself was still a boy. Boys your age, people that you grew up with, now dead and lying on the battlefield because of the British onslaught against you. After the fray, you were captured and sent to a place in Liverpool, England called Liverpool Castle. It was dirty, conditions were poor, and you were made to do hard, back-breaking work. Any utterance of rebellion against the crown resulted in a flogging. After several weeks of this, you were put on a slave ship, bound for the colonies. Once you were aboard, the conditions were cruel. Scurvy and other diseases were everywhere, and it was very, very dirty in the quarters. You were packed in there with hundreds and hundreds of people. There was no sanitation and no time for yourself. They said you were going to be a servant in the new world. Once you step off the ship, you arrive in a place called Virginia. After a couple days' wagon's ride, you go to the western part of Virginia, where you worked on a plantation. For years, you sit there and you did back-breaking work. And just like in Liverpool, any utterance of rebellion against the crown, you were punished. You remember the times back in the old country where you could be free and not have to worry about anyone telling you what to do or how to do it. And you start to miss those days. For now, you're 17 years old. And you have been given the largest travesty that could have been given to anyone, just by fighting for what you believe in.